Hi Yin, I'm Mrs. Kettle again. So this is lesson 2 for this week on Death of a Naturalist. Last lesson we looked at the poem and hopefully you had quite a good understanding of what the poem's about and you are able to now explain this. What we're going to do today then, we're going to look at one of the key themes within the poem, which is the theme of loss of innocence. Before that though, last lesson I left you with a couple of questions to think about. The first question, there's lots of military language. Can you spot at least 2 examples? Who's at war and why? And the second question, are there any words that sound fairly childlike? What are they and why have they been used? So hopefully you should have these answers. The first, you've got poised like mud grenades. Okay, now if you think of this word poised, they're called, the frogs are composed. They're ready to attack, ready to explode. Therefore, the narrator feels threatened. You've got cocked, which is to raise the cock of a gun. It's ready for firing. So if you think the frogs are ready to attack. And then also you've got the word invaded, which again shows that they're threatening and taking over. Then for the second question, your childlike words, you should have written down, slobber and jampotfuls. And again, these words are used in the poem, especially throughout the first stanza, to show the narrator's childhood innocence. Okay, what I'd like you to do on your own then for the next 5 or 10 minutes, so just pause this presentation and have a go at just answering those 8 questions for me, just so I know that you understand what the poem's about. So, question 1, what is it about? What is the tone of the poem? What tragic event happened to Heaney when he was a young boy? What do his poems reflect? What does the word death in the title symbolise? What 3 senses are used in the poem? What is the poem an extended metaphor for? And what does the first stanza deal with? Okay, what is the first stanza about? Have a go at those. When you've completed all 8, continue with the presentation and you'll see the answers next. Okay, so answer 1, the narrator remembers how he used to collect frog spawn as a child. The tone, remember, is fascination, and then in the second stanza it's disgust. 3, his 4-year-old brother died in a car accident. A lot of his poetry, for number 4, reflects his upbringing in the countryside. Remember, we talk about this word death in the title, and it symbolises the loss of childhood innocence. The 3 senses, you've got sight, smell and sound, and if you wanted to, you could put some examples under each of those. The poem's an extended metaphor, like we said before, the loss of enthusiasm in childhood. And the first stanza deals with the poet's fascination with nature and is full of enthusiasm, but then remember, as the poem goes on throughout the second stanza, he becomes repulsed by nature. So give yourself a mark out of 8 for those. If you haven't got the correct answer, make sure you are making a note so that you are getting them right. Okay, so for the rest of this lesson, we're going to look at key themes, the loss of innocence. However, if you were to write an essay on this poem, you could write about the theme of memory, you could talk about the passing of time, or you could actually talk about nature and the natural world. So as we go on into year 10, we will talk about the different themes that go into this poem. But for today, we're looking at the theme loss of innocence. So I have some key quotations for you, which I think show the theme loss of innocence pretty well in this poem. What I would like you to do is to either write these quotations down, but actually in your pack that you were sent, you should have these written down already for you under lesson 2. And what I would like you to do is tell me how each of these quotations shows the loss of innocence in the poem. So I've already done the first one for you. If you have a look here, frog spawn that grew like clotted water. So I've put it's a simile, and it's showing that he's initially excited watching the tadpoles grow. Okay, this clotted water is a really powerful sensory image of the frog spawn. And remember, at the beginning, he was really excited to be part of nature. So that's what you'd write at this side of that quotation. What I'd like you to do now on your own is do the next 5 for me. Now, if you have a look at this box just here, you need to think about words or phrases from the poem that show this theme of innocence or loss of innocence, any imagery used and any technique. So I've managed to identify the simile here in this one. So have a go at that. Give yourself however long it takes. Don't worry, I've put 10 minutes, but you're not on a time limit, just as long as it takes. And then we'll go back through the answers after, making sure that you've got everything written down that you need to. Good luck, give it a whirl. Okay, so we've spoken about number 1, showing his excitement. Then Bubbles gargled delicately. Remember, this is an oxymoron. Delicately is a pretty strange word to describe this disgusting scene. But again, it shows the childhood enjoyment of something repulsive. It shows his appreciation for this scene as a youngster. The next one, but best of all, it emphasises his youthful fascination with nature. Remember, this is a first-person account, and it's maybe linking back to his childhood self, but best of all. The next one, then one hot day when fields were rank, then suggests his view is changing. Okay, his tone, the tone in the poem here has changed. But remember, like we said in the previous lesson, nature hasn't changed in stanza 2. It is just his opinion of it. And this is because, as we were talking about in lesson 1, if you remember, it's about how your perceptions change as you get older. Poised like mud grenades. We spoke about this with your military imagery before, so make sure you've got the correct annotations down if you haven't already. And then this last one, I sickened, turned and ran. This shows his loss of innocence, because remember, it's a direct contrast to his enthusiasm as a child. He can now see the dangers in the world. Okay, the speed of his reaction, I sickened, turned and ran. Now remember, metaphorically, he has now lost his innocence and can see the dangers in the world. It's really important that you write that one down. Take some time then to sort out your annotations. Make sure you've just got everything that you need. So especially when you come to year 10 and 11, you've got everything written down that you can revise from. Now, something a little bit creative rather than listen to me waffling on. What I would like you to do then, you can do this on the computer. You can, if you want to be a little bit artistic and create your own images, that's absolutely fine as well. But I'd like you to create a storyboard which shows this key theme throughout the poem. So you'll see here for number 1, I've got this image of frog spawn. And I've got the key quote, frog spawn that grew like clotted water. And then I've got my analysis here. So what I'd like you to do for the other 5 quotations is draw your image in each of these boxes, add the key quotation, and then write down the analysis. Okay, tell me what that quote is suggesting about loss of innocence. Now, it might be that you think another quotation will fit in quite nicely, and that's absolutely fine. If you'd like to add in your own quotations, as long as you can link them to the key theme that we're looking at today, then you can do that as well. So take however long you want to on this. There's no time limit, like I said before. You can pause this presentation and do a little bit of drawing and being a little bit creative if you like. If you wanted to go a little bit further then, you can think about the theme of memory, passing of time, nature and the natural world. And you can do exactly what we did previously, where you have those 5 or 6 quotations and you attempt to explain how those quotations show your key theme. So if you wanted to do that as an extension task and keep all of your notes together so that when we are back in college we can have a look at what you've been doing, and you can show that to your teacher, that would be fabulous. Okay, to finish today's lesson then, when you've done everything else, I have a little quick quiz for you. So let's see what you can remember with regard to this poem and some key quotations. So I've got 9 quotations, and all I'd like you to do is to fill in the blanks for me. And when you have done that, the answers will be on the next slide. So try not to look at any of your paperwork, but try to remember these key quotations. And when you've done that, if you click onto the next slide, you have the answers in front of you there. So you can give yourself a mark out of 9 if you want to. Okay, Year 9, that's all from me this week. I will be back next week where we'll be looking at another poem from the anthology. Take care, and I will see you all soon.